Hi, my name is Ryan Funk. You're on UTalk. It's a program dedicated to diversity, highlighting native-born and new Canadians' cultures and experiences. The 2020 pandemic has been a challenge for everyone, in every avenue. And for students, they've had to adapt to full online courses. For new Canadians wanting to learn settlement skills or English, learning from home has many challenges, including finding a quiet space to focus, just simply having a lack of technology. John Allan is a dedicated education specialist with diverse experience and drive to learn, teach, and innovate. John touches on the shift to online learning during the pandemic, services in place for educators and students, but first answers, how are new Canadian learners adjusting to online learning?
They've really been improving steadily from March when we had the first lockdowns. And not just the students, but the actual teachers have really, really ramped up their game and adapted. And I see that we've had 2 terms since March. The first term, it was just everybody scrambling around, just trying to hang on to the boat, I guess you could say. And then in September, when we did our second term, everybody was much improved. Still not confident with what's going on. And that includes the learners and that includes the instructors. So now I think we're at a place where everybody feels much more confident, of course. They know the routines, but the learners themselves, they have gone through quite a struggle to adopt new learning techniques such as asynchronous learning online, synchronous learning online, which means what they're using Zoom, for example, to stay on and listen and participate in classes, watching people on a screen, watching things on a screen, not being in a classroom, which takes a lot of getting used to. And there's a lot of fatigue factor as well.
Of course, it's just can be a little overwhelming at times.
Oh, absolutely. And some of the different institutions, I'll just call them institutions, the bodies, some have gone pretty well to all asynchronous, where the activities are online and the teacher sort of interacts with them sparsely, rarely. Others have the situation where the students and the teachers are on for blocks of, say, 3 hours in a row, where they're actually online, engaged and doing activities through Zoom. And some of the students do that twice a day, so 6 hours on a computer a day. So that is quite challenging in many ways. But from what I've seen so far, I really honestly expected a lot of students just to drop off and quit. And it hasn't been like that. Most of the students are still participating, coming and adapting. And I think that shows that the people who have come to Canada, and the teachers, everybody has their background knowledge, their core knowledge, and they've used that to adapt to the new situation. So I think right now, the majority of learners are doing well at this point.
So what are educators and institutions doing to improve the situation overall in terms of e-learning?
Okay, so what educators and institutions are doing at the moment, I think what we've been doing for the last few months is the teachers really recognize that this is not a one-term problem or one-term issue. We might be in this situation for a few more terms to come. So the buy-in for training and extra tutelage and coaching of teachers has been embraced by the teachers across, from my experience, Canada, and they've been learning all sorts of new things. And institutions and support groups have been putting on webinars like nobody's business, and they're really good because not only are they live events, but if you want to go, say in a month, and you don't know anything, say for example about flipped learning, you can go to a website that had a webinar on flipped learning, click on it, and then just watch it, and then possibly download some of the resources that are associated with that video. there's been another explosion of online conferences. So normally there are educational online conferences globally. If the institutions or organizations wanted to make that happen, make their conference happen, there's a couple of odd things that happen with this, or serendipitous things. The first one is I went to the Tesla Ontario conference in Toronto, online, of course, virtually. And the first thing was everything was on one app. And because it's an app that they use for the conference, I can now go and watch any of the sessions or get any of the materials now just by logging into the app. So it's really weird. I got to go to one in Newfoundland, Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, Qatar, and a couple of more conferences. So you also get to participate in all of these conferences. It's quite good. So I think for upping the teachers' game, their professional development, there has been, because people have bought into online webinars and conferences and online meetings with other professionals across the spectrum, the teachers are more prepared for the learners. And just to follow up on the institutions I feel have been really supporting learners, teachers as well.
Are there things that students can do to make their learning better?
The learners, if they have acquired the proper technology and if they do have the requisite Wi-Fi, which is really the things we struggled with at the very beginning of the pandemic, basically they have to sort of just do the basics of managing their life around this new way of learning and living. So basically, if they can carve out a space in their dwelling, their apartment or their house that's quiet and away from distractions. I have my dog. She's always in here. She's good, but she sometimes bothers me. I guess if you have a cat, it would be worse. But
yep,
carving out a learning space in your dwelling, that's really, really important. If you have possibly good lighting, believe it or not, good ventilation is really important as well, so you don't fall asleep. A very comfortable chair if you can. These things are, they lead to expense, and some people's apartments don't lend to them. If they could put their computer facing a wall so that the computer doesn't face the back of a whole room, so people, when they're online, can see their pictures or whatever's going on in the house, that's good. If the learners could stick to routines, like really be disciplined if they can, and set a schedule when they will do their work, when they will be learning, that's a very, very good thing. If they take frequent breaks, because sitting in a chair is not the best thing for you health-wise. I take a walk. I walk my dog a few times a day. Also, when the courses are given to them, especially online, if they can read the expectations of the course, and maybe they might need somebody else. If they're a language learner, they might get a native or a friend or a relative to help them read the expectations of the course. And that really includes the course syllabus. The course syllabus tells them exactly when things are going to happen, in what weeks, and what the expectations in terms of assignments and readings, possibly, and activities. If you have a very nicely organized learning management system, that's a really good thing, because it's blocked off as a syllabus. It should be anyway. And also, a lot of students, even myself, when I was in university, sometimes I didn't read rubrics. Rubrics are quite popular now, so if you are very common. So if the students could also, before they do an assignment, print or look at the rubric itself and make sure that when they are doing the assignment, they're aware of that, so that they can get the best grade possible by being aware of that. And also, don't be afraid to ask for assistance, technical assistance, from the learning management system or the institution or the instructor themselves. Even on a lot of courses, there's at the very top, the learning management system on these online courses, they will have sort of a technical questions forum or a social forum or something forum. A lot of students don't use those, but if they open them up and they post a question, if they're having trouble with an assignment, with access, with understanding a concept with expectations. They can post it there, and usually, well, pretty well always, someone will respond and help them. So reaching out for help, don't worry, we all don't know everything. So that's what I would suggest.
You mentioned language learners, so let's talk a little bit about that. Is it possible to learn settlement skills and language online?
Yes, it is. There are a lot of tried and true activities, and a lot more are being converted and being produced by the Canadian language benchmarks people. They're Canada-wide, of course, but I think they're headquartered in Ottawa. They have all sorts of things. And there's the Tutela Learning Object Repository. It's more of a social community now, but everything that anybody makes in Canada associated with the IRCC, Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, anything that is officially made in association with them, and that means it's the gold standard of language teaching and settlement in Canada, and settlement issues and learning settlement issues, goes on to the tutela.ca learning object repository. And it's the teachers and I believe students can go, and you can get all of these. You can download them individually. And a lot of teachers download these and put them into their courses, sort of like Lego. You take the one it's very modular, it's very beautiful, and they can snap into different learning management systems. So in terms of learning settlement and language online, I've been in this online learning team for over 10 years now, and I've seen it over and over again. It's a great way to learn. However, it's not as good as having face-to-face classes. But it is possible, especially if the teacher and the institution leverage synchronous on real-time learning.
Are there organizations that are assisting immigrants with their internet access and technology? For many, they might not understand exactly the technology that they might all need or require for these online courses. And what are these organizations?
Yes. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, of course, when students were sort of shockingly locked out, and that happened globally, a lot of the students were at home and they didn't really have a way to reach out. And I think email was the way that or telephones were the way that most teachers sort of cobbled through that first few months until we've got more and more people on the learning management systems. So there are different initiatives happening in Canada. There's two that I know of. There's one called Reboot Canada. It's www.rebootcanada.ca, and it's Reboot Canada. And basically, it's a way for people with extra technology to donate it, and it's a place where people who require technology for educational purposes to request it. So what they do is they repurpose, and they put on through our partnership with Microsoft, they put Microsoft products on the machines, and then they share them back with the community. I think in some cases there's a charge of $172 for a full computer, which, if you think about it, that's a pretty good bang for your buck, I guess.
Oh, I was just going to say you've touched on a lot of challenges that online learning has. Like, it's a budding development. Everyone is learning and adjusting to it. Everyone was caught off guard. What do you think needs to change or adjust in order to improve this system overall into the future? Not only for, God forbid, there was another pandemic that hits us in the next coming decade or so, but just providing that avenue for access.
There's many moving parts here, right? And one of them is funding. One of them is infrastructure. One of them is equity across different schools themselves or institutions themselves. And then there's the students themselves. But I think the one thing that we could be doing a lot better, and it could have prevented some of this, is ongoing professional development that is not just mailed in. Like, the teachers really not wanting to, but the teachers being engaged in real, valid sort of training that they would buy into it and they would actually integrate it into their teaching, and I'm not sure if that would be rolled into their contracts or something like that, where they're sort of responsible for their professional development, growing their professional learning networks, right? That's one thing that I was always I've been trying to do, and I'm still continuing to do, help teachers want to improve what they're doing. And I'm not saying they're not, like, their teachers are amazing people. They're giving and they're professional. It's just that if we could have a bit more of it, I don't know, plus one, 11.
Eventually this pandemic will end. I know it doesn't feel like it, but eventually it will end.
Right. Yeah.
Do you feel that settlement and language teaching will return to the old normal? And if so, why?
It's a big country. Canada's a big country, and we have different providers all across the country to support new Canadians with settlement and with language learning. And I think every single sort of center or board will have to look down and look at the whole layout through a new lens. Like, do we need to have people at this center? And does it not just serve as a language teaching center, but is it also a social hub for that community? If it is, then I think it's really important to keep those sort of brick and mortar places where they are educational, teaching people about settlement, but also they're a social gathering point, which is important for people in a new situation. In other cases, though, I think that there's a lot to be said and learned about what we have experienced up until this point and will have experienced by September, that there will be spaces and places and programs that really it benefits the learners more. For example, if they have a family, if they have a job that has different shifts, if they have other responsibilities, if the transportation is an issue, possibly those kinds of centers might just go to fully online. The other offshoot I think that's going to happen is the instructors' educational technology abilities and awareness is so strong now and will be even stronger. A lot of the tools, techniques that they're using now will be integrated into the face-to-face classroom, and that's called hybrid or blended learning. So I think learning will actually be stronger after the pandemic, because we will be thinking more about the learner's situation, and the teachers will be stronger. And as well, we will have all of these new techniques. And I think that the learners will have a better experience once they get into a place where pretty well everybody understands technology and how it works with learning.
Some of the current work John is doing is to develop continuous updating of training materials to correspond with advances of the Moodle learning management system on the Avenue, EduLink, and Learn IT to Tech servers. Avenue is an online settlement language training solutions for adult newcomers and teaching professionals. If you have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight, leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was U Talk, and have yourself a good one.